So my brother was the one who said I should be an actor. I said, well, what should I do with my life? He said, you should be an actor. You're as funny as Rodney Dangerfield and Eddie Murphy. And I never thought that. He just made me feel like I was.
Stand-up success, mainstream visibility on Saturday Night Live, and a run of hit comedies had turned him into a defining presence of the decade. His performances were loud, childish, and unapologetically silly, built around characters who shouted their way through adulthood and refused to mature. Audiences loved it. Studios rewarded it. The box office followed. In 1999, that momentum peaked. Big Daddy arrived as both a commercial win and a clear statement of intent.
But buddy, real dads aren't always that great, you know? I got a real dad and the guy's out of his mind. He's been telling me what to do my whole life. He never lets me figure stuff out on my own. A lot of dads are like that. That's why so many people grow up nuts. Look at this guy over here. He's probably a nice little boy just like you. Then his dad messed his mind up. Now look at him. Hey, buddy, who won the Jets game, you know?
Who cares?
Let it go, pal. He can't control you anymore.
What are you talking about?
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you're a loser.
You're mad at your dad, not at me. I forgive you.
I am. I hate my father.
Sandler wasn't drifting through roles anymore. He was writing, starring, and shaping the films around his own sensibilities. The comedy was broad, but it was controlled. Beneath the jokes was a performer who understood timing, structure, and audience instinct better than most of his peers. That same year, Sandler made a move that would quietly define the rest of his career. He launched Happy Madison Productions.
Terrific.
Not as a prestige label or a bid for awards, but as a way to stay comfortable, productive, and surrounded by people he trusted. To outsiders, it looked like a comedian building a playground. In reality, it was something closer to insulation, creative freedom, financial leverage, and loyalty wrapped into one operation. Publicly, Sandler's image was fixed. He was the goofy voice.
Fresh pepper.
On my chocolate mousse? No, thank you.
Say when.
No. Hey, cut it out. Come on.
Say when.
No, come on. Don't.
Say when.
No, come on. Come on.
Say when. Say when. Say when. Say when. Say when.
The guy critics didn't need to take seriously. But behind the scenes, there was already tension between how he was perceived and what he was capable of doing. The industry saw a brand. A few individuals saw something else entirely. One of them was a filmmaker known for precision, restraint, and emotional volatility. And when that director looked at Adam Sandler, he didn't see a punchline. He saw potential, that quiet divergence between who Adam Sandler was allowed to be and who he might actually be was about to define everything that followed.
All right, go fuck yourself. That shit has nothing to do with me. All right? I run a legitimate business here.
Listen to me. What's your name, sir? Answer me.
What's your name, asshole?
I'm Barry Egan.
How do I know? You can be anybody,
You're
fuckhead.
a bad person. You have no right taking people's confidence in your service. You understand me, sir?
You're sick.
No.
Shut up! Shut the fuck
You have
up!
no right to take people's
Shut
trust.
up! Will you shut up? Shut up! Shut up! Shut up! Now!
Are you threatening me, Dick?
Why'd you go fuck yourself!
Oh. Fuck! Did you just say go fuck myself?
Yes, I did.
That wasn't good! You're dead!
At the start of the 2000s, the idea of Adam Sandler stepping outside his familiar comedic space still felt improbable. His films were reliable, his persona well-established, and the industry had little incentive to complicate a formula that worked. But change didn't come from a calculated pivot. It came from a director following an instinct. Paul Thomas Anderson first approached Sandler not as a comedian, but as an actor. While visiting the set of Little Nicky, Anderson floated the idea of working together. There was no pitch meeting, no studio mandate, just a belief that something unexplored existed beneath Sandler's public image.
I think departure means I'm moving on from something, and I don't know how to describe what I think I did. I did a movie with a guy who I think is an incredible filmmaker, and I played a role that he wrote for me that I thought was a great part, and I thought that it would be a challenge for me to do, but something I thought I could actually do. So I do want to. In no way do I want to say I'm not I'm giving up making a certain kind of movie. I love making the movies I've made in the past, but I do also. This experience was incredible, and I want to continue to challenge myself, and I'd love to challenge myself with the man here. Down the line, we plan on doing some stuff in the future, and that's just. I'm 36 years old. I made a movie when I was in Toronto here when I was 26, Billy Madison. I had a great time doing that. Every movie I've done since, I've tried my hardest to make it as good as it can be, but I want to definitely test myself any way I can, and this guy tested me.
When the script arrived, it wasn't a compromise between comedy and drama. It was a full departure.
I can never remember the order of how things happened, but I think one of the first things that I wanted to do was write a movie for Adam. And that probably came first, and everything else came second.
Punch Drunk Love placed Sandler in unfamiliar territory. The character was anxious, volatile, and emotionally fractured. The humor, when it appeared, was uncomfortable and brittle. Sandler didn't resist the shift. He committed to it. The performance demanded restraint, vulnerability, and a willingness to look exposed on screen. It was a risk that neither his audience nor the industry had asked him to take. The film also revealed something important about Sandler himself. He didn't need to dominate the environment to be effective. Under a director with a clear vision, he was willing to surrender control. He followed structure instead of instinct, silence instead of noise. The result, unsettled expectations. When Punch Drunk Love premiered, the response was immediate and confused. Critics who had dismissed Sandler for years were suddenly forced to reassess him. The conversation shifted from whether he was funny to whether he had been underestimated all along. For Sandler, the experience wasn't a reinvention. It was a confirmation. He had proven something to himself. Even if he had no intention of abandoning comedy, the paradox was already forming. The ability to do more, paired with the choice not to chase validation. Punch Drunk Love didn't just surprise audiences. It reframed how Adam Sandler was viewed by the people paying closest attention. For the first time, the gap between his commercial identity and his actual range was impossible to ignore. Yet instead of pivoting immediately toward dramatic roles, Sandler returned to familiar territory. The choice was deliberate. Around this period, Sandler's personal life was changing just as quickly as his professional reputation. While preparing Big Daddy, he cast actress Jackie Titone in a supporting role. The collaboration was brief on screen, but lasting off it. Titone would appear again in Little Nicky and later in 8 Crazy Nights, gradually becoming a quiet constant within Sandler's creative world. In 2003, Sandler and Titone married. The ceremony itself reflected Sandler's instincts, private, unconventional, and grounded in personal loyalty rather than spectacle. It marked a clear shift in priorities. As his public persona remained frozen in adolescence, his private life moved firmly into adulthood. That transition was interrupted only months later. In September of that year, Sandler's father, Stanley Sandler, passed away. The loss was profound. Sandler had been closely bonded with his father, shaped by a household built on respect, routine, and approval. His sense of humor, even his taste in comedy, had been filtered through what made his parents laugh.
My dad used to say to me when I was young, and when I was in college, and I'd say, I'm gonna do this and that, he'd be like, yeah, you can do that. And if you don't, you'll come work with me. I would just say to him, no, I'm gonna be fine. I'm gonna make it, I'm gonna do good. He'd be like, all right. My father, man, when he laughed, boy, you were excited. You were excited that the big man was good and thought it was funny because he was a smart guy, and he always, certain comedians made him laugh. I used to love any comedian my father and mother liked.
Grief didn't arrive as a public breakdown. It arrived quietly, reshaping Sandler's emotional center. Friends later described him as more guarded, more reflective. The loss didn't push him away from comedy, but it changed the way weight and consequence entered his work. What followed wasn't an immediate transformation, but a subtle recalibration. The man audiences saw as frozen in time was moving forward internally, carrying something heavier than the characters he continued to play. By the time Reign Over Me entered production, Adam Sandler was no longer experimenting. He was responding. The film placed him in the role of a man shattered by the sudden loss of his family, a performance shaped less by theatrical grief and more by emotional absence.
Some man told me the plane's from Boston. Some other guy says there's 2 planes. Then I go inside the airport and I'm watching on the television, and But I saw it. I saw it and I felt it at the same time.
Opposite Don Cheadle, Sandler carried the weight of a character who could barely speak about what had happened, let alone process it. The project arrived at a moment when loss was no longer abstract for him. While Sandler never framed the role as autobiographical, the timing mattered. He approached the character with restraint, allowing silence to do the work that dialogue usually handled. The performance was raw, uneven, and intentionally uncomfortable. It demanded empathy rather than laughter. Reign Over Me confused audiences in a different way than Punch Drunk Love had. This wasn't a stylistic art film or an eccentric experiment. It was grounded, heavy, and emotionally direct. Sandler didn't soften the role with jokes or irony. He let the character remain withdrawn and unresolved. For many viewers, it was his most emotionally exposed work to date. Yet once again, Sandler didn't treat the moment as a turning point to be exploited.
Did you want to talk, Charlie?
Oh, wait, it's private.
Oh, well, you can speak freely. I mean, this one's totally knocked out. She's 1,000 miles away. And Anna's from Guatemala. She just got to this country recently. She doesn't even speak English. Anna, Charlie's a superhero from outer space, and he stuffs the front of his tights with a sock.
You are very nice.
See? Privacy.
I was thinking about it, and you were right. I do need to get some help. I want to get help.
That's great, Charlie.
Yeah, I gotta be really careful, though. I just know I'm better off not having certain thoughts.
But you're doing the right thing because you need someone to help you process those thoughts.
Well, I don't want it to be that bozo Nigel. No. He's a dork.
When the film ended, he didn't chase prestige projects or reposition his career. Instead, he retreated back toward comedy, not as an escape, but as a form of balance. Working with directors who demanded intensity had shown him something important. He could go to those places when needed, but he didn't want to live there. The emotional cost was real, and Sandler was increasingly protective of his private life. This pattern became clearer with time. Sandler wasn't avoiding serious roles because he couldn't handle them. He was choosing when the weight was worth carrying. As the late 2000s approached, Adam Sandler's career appeared from the outside to settle into predictability.
When you shoot a movie like Grown Ups, right?
Yeah.
Is that the most fun you can have because
Sure.
you like all those guys?
I do have more fun with my friends, and I do look to put them in all my movies. I love, I know it's going to be a better day when they're there, and I also want them to have a great thing to do. I like seeing them kill and all that stuff.
It is a weird thing to be the producer, right? When it is your friends in the movie,
right,
you're still the boss.
I never feel like the boss. I feel like I have the responsibility of making sure it all goes smoothly for them. Like when Grown Ups happened, and those guys were all in it, I swear to God, my first instinct was I did not want to let those guys down.
In other words, if the movie tanks, then you feel like it's on you, and I fucked their career up and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, you know, it's funny, the fucking bad reviews that I get on everything I do, that part pisses me off because I ask my fucking friends to be in it, and I'm promising them I think it's good, and then I do screenings for an audience, and it all works, and I'll call them up and say, hey, you know, that one thing you said really did great, and blah, 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 blah. And then that Friday, every Friday of literally every one of my movies, the reviews, they destroy them so much that I'm just like, I can't wait for my friends to see the movie and not read that shit and be affected.
Do you read the reviews, though? Why?
No, it just happens on occasion. I'll get a call like, oh, hey, fuck the New York Times. I'm like, I didn't read it yet.
The dramatic detours had proven their point. What followed was a return to familiarity, shaped less by creative fear and more by personal preference. Comedy for Sandler had always been a place of control. That control became most visible in the films produced under Happy Madison Productions. Sets were relaxed. Schedules were built around friendships. Longtime collaborators returned again and again, not because the industry demanded it, but because Sandler valued trust over reinvention. In 2010, that approach culminated in Grown Ups, a film that felt less like a traditional production and more like a reunion.
It's like shaking hands with an eagle. I'll see you later.
See you there. See you there.
It's amazing.
Hey, nice ears. You get the NFL package on those? Nice cat.
The movie wasn't designed to impress critics. It was designed to be comfortable. Summer locations, longtime friends, children on set, and minimal pressure to reshape a public image that Sandler had long stopped trying to defend.
Hey, Lenny, remember we used to come here in high school late night after we got wasted?
What's wasted?
Nice one, Aggie. Wasted, kids, is something that happens when you have a hankering for ice cream.
Well, I want to get wasted. I want to get totally wasted. I want to get wasted every single day of my life. I want to get chocolate wasted. No, you don't need to get wasted. It's okay.
All right, everybody.
For him, success was no longer measured by acclaim, but by sustainability. The backlash was immediate and familiar. Reviews dismissed the film as lazy, indulgent, and creatively stagnant. That reaction would repeat itself across multiple projects in the following years, reaching a peak with Jack and Jill, which became a symbol of everything critics claimed Sandler had stopped caring about.
Hey, Jill.
Oh, hey! Happy New Year, guys.
Where have you been hiding, hon?
I was visiting my brother for Thanksgiving, and I just decided to stay out there with him for a while.
Yeah, he must have loved that.
For your information, Carol, he begged me to stay, but I'm just too exhausted from being on game shows and dating movie stars.
Oh, who'd you hook up with? Rob Schneider?
I like him.
God, you're hot.
But the criticism misunderstood the intention. These films weren't miscalculations. They were decisions. Sandler wasn't chasing growth in the traditional sense. He was building a career that allowed him to work consistently without sacrificing time, relationships, or control. To audiences who grew up with him, the appeal remained intact. To critics, the gap between his potential and his choices only widened. And that widening gap became central to how Adam Sandler was talked about, not as a failure, but as a question mark. By the early 2000s, the conversation around Adam Sandler had hardened into something strangely rigid. His name no longer sparked debate about talent, only about taste. Each new release was met with familiar language, recycled long before audiences had even seen the films. The verdicts arrived early and stayed fixed. The low point, at least on paper, came with a sweep of Golden Raspberry Awards. The industry treated the moment as confirmation rather than exaggeration. Sandler accepted the joke publicly, even leaned into it. But privately, the narrative had already shifted beyond his control. To many observers, he had become a symbol of wasted potential. What critics often missed was how little that judgment aligned with Sandler's actual priorities. He wasn't withdrawing from acting. He was insulating his life.
Hi, everybody. All right, I wrote a speech. Here we go. I'll get it open for you. That's a fortune cookie. Sorry. Hello. My name is Adam Sandler. Thank you so much for this wonderful award. Over the years, I have had the great honor of accepting several of these prestigious People's Choice Awards. And when I'm up here at the podium, I always make sure to thank my family and my friends, to thank you guys, the so-called people, and of course our troops overseas. But late last night, I realized that there is a group of people that I have shamefully never thanked. The ones who shaped and molded me and provided the inspiration and courage that helped me to achieve my dream of making movies that critics all over the planet despise with unreasonable fury. But
Interviews from this period consistently returned to the same themes: time with family, loyalty to friends, and the freedom to choose projects without negotiation. Success, in his view, was stability. While reviewers framed his career as a decline, Sandler didn't recognize the downward arc. The films were still profitable, the sets were still enjoyable, and the audience he cared about, families, longtime fans, casual viewers, kept showing up. The disconnect between critical outrage and commercial reality widened every year. That gap revealed something uncomfortable. The idea that an artist owed growth to critics assumed that validation was the goal. Sandler had quietly rejected that premise. He had already proven what he could do. What remained was deciding how he wanted to live while doing it. And yet, even as the noise peaked, something was shifting again beneath the surface. Another opportunity was forming, one that would once more force the conversation to reset. The reset didn't come from a comeback tour or a public rebrand. It arrived quietly, through a script that didn't fit the version of Adam Sandler most people thought they understood. In 2017, he appeared in The New and Selected, directed by Noah Baumbach, a filmmaker known for emotional precision rather than spectacle.
What the fuck, man?
Ow! You kicked me in the shin! I was disappointed in you for quitting piano. What the fuck is wrong with you? I know it's hard. It's hard for all of us. Get it together.
You are doing with Tony just what Dad did with me and Gene.
Ow.
The performance was restrained, wounded, and deeply human. Sandler played a man living in the shadow of familial disappointment, carrying resentment without ever fully expressing it. There were no explosions of anger, no comedic releases to soften the edges. The role asked for patience and emotional honesty, and Sandler approached it with discipline. This time, the response was less confused than before. Critics were forced to acknowledge a pattern they could no longer dismiss as an anomaly. This wasn't a fluke or a lucky collaboration. It was evidence of a skill set Sandler had chosen to deploy selectively. When placed under directors with a defined emotional language, he adapted completely. The performance earned serious awards attention, including recognition from the Independent Spirit Awards. Once again, there was talk of transformation, of a late career pivot toward prestige. And once again, Sandler resisted the narrative. He didn't announce a new phase or abandon his existing partnerships. Instead, he returned to his established rhythm, moving between projects that required emotional excavation and those that offered familiarity. The pattern was no longer accidental, it was intentional. By now, the paradox was unmistakable. Adam Sandler wasn't avoiding serious acting because he lacked ability. He was choosing when to reveal it and when to keep it in reserve. That reserve was tested to its limit when the Safdie brothers approached Adam Sandler with Uncut Gems. The role was nothing like the restrained figures he had played before. It was loud, manic, relentless, and designed to exhaust both the actor and the audience. Sandler didn't just step outside his comfort zone. He detonated it. The character lived in constant motion, driven by impulse, ego, and desperation. Every decision made things worse, and there was no release valve of humor to soften the chaos. For Sandler, the appeal was uncertainty. He didn't feel in control of the performance, and that discomfort became fuel. It was the opposite of the environment he had carefully constructed around himself for years. When Uncut Gems premiered, the response was immediate and overwhelming. Praise centered not on surprise, but on inevitability.
You did. You fucked my man Adam Sandler out of an Academy Award. Never mind a nomination, he deserved to win one. That thing, anyway, that's political.
This was what Sandler looked like when all restraint was removed. The performance earned widespread acclaim and culminated in a major win at the Independent Spirit Awards, cementing the film as a defining moment in his dramatic career. Yet even here, Sandler resisted framing the work as a reinvention. He described the process as obsession rather than ambition. The fear of getting it wrong, the drive to meet the expectations of filmmakers he respected. It wasn't about proving critics wrong. It was about not letting the opportunity slip. Uncut Gems didn't close the argument around Adam Sandler. It intensified it. If he could deliver a performance this unfiltered and committed, then every career choice before and after it became impossible to misread. The paradox was no longer whether he could be great. It was why greatness had never been the point. With the argument settled, what remained was context. By the time Adam Sandler was honored on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, the shape of his career looked very different from how it had once been framed. The highs and lows critics loved to chart no longer told the story. Longevity did. Sandler's public recognition continued to arrive on his own terms. When he received the Mark Twain Prize for American Humor, the celebration focused less on any single performance and more on consistency.
And all my fellow comedians, actors, writers, collaborators, crew members, people on the streets, my family, my kids, my forever girl, Jackie, all make me feel like the critics didn't know what the hell they were talking about. So thank you for all that. Thank you. Thank you for creating a delusional, psychotic man who is now the proud owner of the 2023 Mark Twain Award for Athleticism, math, sexual prowess, guitar virtuosity, and best cheek smell. Good night. Keep lying to yourselves, everybody, and God bless America. Thank you so much for that. Love y'all.
Decades of work, a loyal audience, and an unmistakable voice that never fully bent to industry pressure. The same qualities critics once dismissed had become the foundation of his legacy. What stood out most during these moments wasn't validation, but gratitude. Sandler consistently redirected praise toward the people who had been with him from the beginning. Friends, collaborators, and family. His career had never been about isolation or reinvention. It was about continuity. As he spoke publicly, the same themes returned. He wasn't chasing reinvention. He wasn't correcting mistakes. He was protecting a life that allowed him to work without sacrificing the relationships that mattered most. The balance between ambition and contentment was deliberate. In hindsight, the debate around Adam Sandler says as much about audience expectations as it does about his choices. The assumption that talent must always be maximized misunderstands the freedom that success can offer. Sandler had already answered the question long ago. He could do anything he wanted. What made his career unusual wasn't restraint or excess. It was the clarity to choose happiness over approval, and to never apologize for it. When the story is viewed in full, the contradiction at the center of Adam Sandler's career stops looking like a flaw and starts looking like a philosophy. He built success early, proved his range repeatedly, and then refused to let external expectations dictate how that success should be spent. The industry kept waiting for a version of Sandler who would finally commit to one identity. He never did. Instead, he created a career that moved laterally rather than upward. Comedy projects that prioritized comfort and loyalty existed alongside performances that demanded emotional risk. Neither canceled the other out. Together, they formed a body of work defined less by ambition than by autonomy.
I get you guys are bullies. I saw nothing about it. 5 yards and I'll stop. Here we go. Don't let him do it. He's jacked up on something.
Fine, got in a button. And the
Mommy, you really?
Ready and action.
And next.
And action. Show's over, Tyre.
Sandler's loyalty became his most consistent through line. The same collaborators returned. The same values surfaced in interviews. Family remained central, not as branding, but as structure. Where other careers narrowed under pressure, his widened in personal terms, even as critics struggled to reconcile the choices. The paradox was never about talent versus effort. It was about intention. Sandler didn't fail to become a prestige actor. He declined to live there permanently. He didn't retreat from challenge. He chose when the challenge was worth the cost. In a system built on constant escalation, that decision felt subversive. Success is usually measured by accumulation, awards, acclaim, reinvention. Sandler measured it differently: time, trust, and control over his own life. That's why the debate around Adam Sandler never fully resolves. His career doesn't fit a cautionary arc or a redemption story. It resists moral framing entirely. What remains is something rarer than consistency or growth. It's a career built on choice and the freedom to stand by it. If Adam Sandler proved he could be great whenever he wanted, do you think choosing comfort and loyalty over constant ambition is a strength or a missed opportunity? Let us know your take in the comments. And if this story made you rethink success, click the video next to this one to dive even deeper into another public figure whose career hides more than it shows.